Hockey fans, welcome to NYI FYI with Sean Croft and Chris Hessel.
Welcome to NYIF live on NYIFYI.com, live on YouTube, I think.
I think so. It looks like that it looks like it went to our Twitter account. That we started a live stream.
Yeah.
Whether you can see us or not is another question because we can't see us, which may not be a bad thing.
Yes. We get ready to come on, and it's like having flashbacks of the Ustream, where we went to go live at 11, and it needed to install an update
to the plugin.
Yeah.
And now it's us we're live, but we see a black screen, which, to be honest with you, is what I wish that I would have seen during the Islander game yesterday. But
this whole
I don't know, man, oh man. And we had some people tweeting in the morning wondering if we were definitely doing a group therapy this morning.
Oh yes.
Oh
yes.
Yeah. We're here, man. We are here for a group therapy and to talk about, this is the time of year now that we, we're really getting tired of talking about. But it is the trade deadline coming up on Wednesday. And we are here. I think it's very appropriate, by the way, that the Islanders, when they do their party stuff, at times, I don't know if they are anymore, but they used to be sponsored by Send in the Clowns Entertainment.
Yeah.
I think that's very apropos, and they probably should renew that contract, especially for games like yesterday afternoon.
We're already here.
Send in the Clowns.
Hey, look at this. Jones Beach just tweeted that Rod Stewart is going to play on August 20th with Carlos Santana.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
That's a great bill.
I would love to see that.
This is what it's come to. This is what we're going to talk about.
I may have to look for that.
I'm going to get tickets to this show.
That's
phenomenal. A Wednesday night, and I got Jimmy Buffett tickets the next day.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, I'm going to go to this concert.
You're going to be spending your whole week there at.
I've never seen Santana. Love Santana.
I'd love to see him.
I've seen Rod Stewart. He's fantastic.
I know a lot of people who've seen Santana. I mean, my parents have seen both of them. People I work with have seen a lot of Santana and said, he's phenomenal in concert. You got to see this guy. Especially as I don't want to say as a guitar player because I like to pretend I'm one. At least I'm teaching myself to be one. Definitely a guy that I would like to check out. So there you go. A little advertising for the Jones Beach concert.
You're welcome,
Which will probably be sold out in about 5 seconds, but.
Yeah, I gotta get on board with this. Okay, well, according to MW, we're live on YouTube. He can see us, and he says...
Okay, nice to see you guys. Give a big wave. Okay, hi.
And he says, you think you guys have it tough? I have season tickets.
Yeah,
I went
that's
yesterday,
rough.
and I'm going today.
Oh, my goodness.
You don't have to. You don't have to.
He's a masochist, man. You enjoy PMW? We got more where that came from.
You don't have to go today.
There's more where that came from.
Oh, yeah.
Look
at this, Matthew Barnaby on Twitter. Did Patty Quitter get fired?
Yeah,
I know the answer.
We have a lot to talk about
here
between trades that have happened and, this it feels like Groundhog Day with Pal LaFontaine. We'll get to that. Of course, more news from the Sabres with Christian Ehrhoff sitting. Of course, they asked him the other day for his for his list of teams. This trade deadline, to be honest with you, I think is going to be very interesting. And I think you saw that get kicked off the other day with the Blues and the Sabres. But I think, first year under a new CBA, I think this is going to be a very interesting deadline.
Yeah.
Anyway, how are you doing?
I'm fine.
Well, you're fine. That's good.
I'm okay. Tim Finn is back. Welcome, Tim. I'm good. Getting tired of looking out the studio window here and seeing snow.
Oh, man. I hope everybody's battered down the hatches. And
yeah. Well, now they're saying that we're only going to get 1 to 3 inches on the North Shore and 3 to 6 on the island.
Well,
let Jersey handle the rest of it.
I'd sign up for that.
Yeah.
But
that's what they're saying.
Jaromir Jagr can handle it with the season having. He can probably shovel all of New Jersey at this point.
Yeah.
Hey, that would have been a good signing. I'm not going to go there again. No, you know what? I am going to go there again when we get to the game.
Yeah. I'm just getting tired of looking out the window and seeing the snow.
Yeah, well, you know...
And I've been spending a lot of time looking out the studio window in the last couple of weeks.
Pondering.
And, of course, going to extrabasesradio.com.
Right.
Sorry, I had to give.
I was going to get to that. I was going to say, well, you not only to think about pondering, but you've been thinking about what to talk about with your new show. Because I was going to say, we're in spring training mode. At least warmer weather's around the corner, and you've got your solo gig going on.
Yeah, I've been
definitely worth a check.
I've been out of radio for a while, commercial radio at least, which is fine with me. Right now, I have almost no desire to go back to it. I don't miss it. I like doing this. But I needed something else. I figured, well, what the hell? We go back to add something into my repertoire.
Very cool.
So
definitely worth a check.
But I did, for people that get mad, yes, I did have I did talk to Chris.
Oh, no, absolutely. And I was, of course, cool with it.
Yeah.
If that is what you aspire to do, it's what you went to school for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's only a good thing.
Yeah.
So very exciting. Definitely worth a check.
But everything's a priority. Everything is a priority. That's not a priority over this. This is not a priority over that. Everything's a priority.
Well, what else were you supposed to do? You couldn't get out of the house here winter.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Definitely a good thing. But yeah, there seems
like I hope
get into spring and more baseball stuff. So of course.
Yep. Check it out.
That'll be exciting for you.
Extrabasesradio.com @extrabasesradio is the Twitter account. Follow it, tweet it.
And by the way, yeah, absolutely.
It's just me talking baseball by myself.
Listen, that's the way to do it these days. Hey, you learn from the best, Mike Francesa.
Yeah. Except, I'm slightly more entertaining than Mike Francesa, I'd like to believe, because at least I'll let you have a say.
I was going to say, at least, A, you let them have a say, and B, you know how to pronounce people's names.
Yeah.
This was the other day he was talking about the Academy Awards, and he called Wolf of Wall Street the Werewolf of Wall Street. I mean, for guys.
But they so go.
Well, because he talks with the Brooklyn accent, Throw him out of the league!
Let me tell you something. Chris Russo, like, I to myself, I've always, when I see something outlandish, a sports trade, for whatever reason, forever, I've always gone into Chris Russo mode, and I'll read it out loud to myself in Chris Russo mode.
You did that a few weeks ago on the radio, on our radio show.
Chris Russo is like the love child of Leslie Chow from The Hangover and Roger Rabbit. Like when the Yankees talked about Steve and Drew. Steve and Joe? Why the Yankees had Steve and Joe? You give a draft picks to the Boston Red Sox. It is. It's like Roger Rabbit and Leslie Chow. Steve and Joe? Yeah, worst farm system in baseball, Mike.
That's good. I never heard you do that before. You should have. Instead of we were joking around a couple of months ago when we had that NYFY, we were screaming your head off, and we were selling it. I said, "You showing all Chris Russo on us. You should have done that."
You have the opportunity to say Andy McDonald for Micah Neuvert, and you turn it down because your goaltending's so great, Mike. Unbelievable. This Garth Snow.
Well, I tell you,
this is, ladies and gentlemen, this is what it has come to.
This is
we are 8 minutes and 48 seconds into the broadcast, and we have not spent an ounce of energy talking about this. Not
this is rock bottom,
an
ladies and
ounce.
gentlemen. We're doing Chris Russo impressions at 11:13 in the morning on a Sunday.
This is terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible.
Oh
Mike.
my God.
Oh, it's awful. This is what it's come to.
Well,
because what else are you gonna do?
We'll get into it because there are some
freaking disaster.
I know.
Oh my God, it's a train wreck. This team went to the playoffs last year.
You know what's funny?
This team went to the playoffs.
I'm looking. I was thinking about it yesterday. We'll talk about being a playoff team and these guys have experience and this and that. How could they not? They don't. Quite frankly, they don't. They made the. Any team can make the playoffs in this league. Okay, more than half the teams make the playoffs in this league. You're always going to get every year a young team, young and hungry team that makes the playoffs, makes some noise. The Islanders did that. But you need to make sure that you surround them with the right guys. And, you know, our big moves was Pierre-Marc Bouchard. We didn't make the trade for defenseman. We didn't make a trade for a goalie. You know, we talked about all the problems of just peddling Niederreiter alone and that not having as much value. And, you know, now you're looking at situations where it's like we got guys like Josh Bailey who's not performing. Interesting in the broadcast yesterday about I need to change the scenery, hinting that maybe it's time for him to move on to another club. Maybe that's something that the Islanders will look into for another change of scenery guy. I think that these guys on the MST broadcast won't say something like that without having some idea. You know, I think Bailey's the guy that could end up being moved for a change of scenery guy. I have no idea what kind of a guy. You know, I mean, the first name that pops into my head, you know, Sam Gagne, you know, of course, from Edmonton, is a change of scenery guy. He's another guy who's putting up 30, 35 points, and he's making $4 million a year for the next couple of seasons. But I think that there's a very real possibility that it's going to be more than just Vanek and McDonald that end up going. Because, I mean, the writing's on the wall, okay? The writing is on the wall that there's a lot of things that aren't working with this team right now. You know, we'll get to when we, you know, recap the games. You know, we'll talk about, you know, some of the kids, you know, that what we've seen out of guys like Halmo and Anders Lee and stuff. But, you know, there's veterans, quote unquote, on this team. You know, and it kind of goes back to the whole, you know, they know nothing but losing bit. You know, aside from last year, for me, I'm looking at it, I'm going, this team still is so devoid of solid veterans, and that could have really helped them. You know, any good young team can make the playoffs, but every team needs veteran presence, you know, on their roster to take that next step. I mean, you always need to be, you know, signing the right veterans to take that next step. I mean, the St. Louis Blues were one of the best teams in hockey last year. I mean, did they need to go out and sign Jay Bouwmeester to trade for him? Probably not, but what did they end up doing? They traded for him and Leopold to shore up that area. You know, Yaroslav Halak is having an unreal season for them. And he wasn't coming back, probably, but did they really need to go out and trade for Ryan Miller? Well, everybody's got them now in cup contender status. You always be looking to improve, even on the veterans that you have. The Islanders don't have very many veterans, you know. Veterans in the sense of the word as guys that have been there before. You know, this was one of the reasons why I screamed and yelled my head off, and I'll say it again. They should have signed Jaromir Jagr. Would have been the only guy on this roster with Stanley Cup or even conference finals experience in the past decade. You know, not even Lubomir Vishnowsky has that. So to me, you know, I think that that's really where this team dropped the ball.
Jason Richland in the chat room says Halmo got demoted today. Not sure if you saw.
Did not see that. I guess that means that Matt Martin and his glorious season will be back in the lineup.
Yeah.
I really liked what Halmo was providing. Okay, I think you know, a couple of big hits, a couple of good rushes. Halmo definitely looks like he can have some sort of a few. He can skate.
Well, you know what?
I mean,
that's good because that means that the you know, there's no reason to go out and sign the goons anymore.
Well, this is something that I was thinking of when I was.
Why not let this kid come in and skate and forecheck and hit?
Well, that's what bothers me when I was watching the Islanders. You know, yesterday, Butch made a mention of Eric Bolton. I mean, you know, throwing his body around, had a couple of nice. Eric Bolton, believe it or not, to me, has had a pretty good year this year.
He's been solid.
He's been solid for what he is. He's been solid this year. I'll give him that. But he was talking about, you know, Bolton trying to get a spot for next year, and I'm sitting here going, they cannot bring this guy back. You know, I listen. He's had a good year, like I said. He's been solid, but they can't, you know, bring up Halmo for that spot. You want to bring up a guy, bring up Halmo for that. He's the same size as Bolton. For, you know, you're gonna get more skating, a little bit more of an offensive touch out of that. You know, it's the same thing that people were talking about a couple of years ago with Michael Haley. I like Halmo's game better than I liked Haley's game because I think that there's more to it. I definitely see some sort of more of an offensive presence. I see a little bit more of a hockey head. You know, to me, that's where that spot should go next year. I really have no interest in bringing a guy like Bolton back, and my fear is that you're going to waste a spot on a guy like that again, and we're going to, you know, be down to the wringing our hands, and then we'll sign Peter Regan Part 2, and we're going to be wringing our hands once more because it's going to be, well, who's going to play first line wing? And that's really my biggest fear as far as the forwards go going into the off season. I think you and I were in agreement last week that we would have liked to have seen Chris Stewart on this roster, but give up a little extra to get something. But be that as it may, they that's in the past.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Let's just recap the games.
So let's start here,
and then
we'll work our way to that.
Then we're gonna go to a break, and then we're gonna come back, and then we're gonna yell.
A snicker in the background.
And you guys gonna cry in the chat room.
We're gonna have a kumbaya. Welcome to the Sunday morning therapy. Sunday morning kumbaya.
Yeah. Well, welcome. It's the first Sunday in March on NYI FYI.
Yeah,
it's the same thing every year, but last year it is the first Sunday in March on NYI FYI.
Well, last year we were kind of upset that they didn't go out and improve the defense.
But at least we had we knew they could make the playoffs.
We knew they had the chance. Yep. Anyway, we digress. So.
Okay. We hosted the Toronto Maple Leafs on Thursday, 1-1.
The Leafs looking to, continue their hot streak as they went into the Olympic break. Leafs such an up and down team this year. Started off really good.
Boy, they
fell down to earth. Won like
of the National Hockey.
Well, you know what? Though I mean they look like they're going to make the playoffs for another year in a row here. Bernier's been great. He's played 2 games against the Islanders this year where they really kind of picked him apart. James Reimer, of course, is I don't want to say disgruntled, but if you read into his comments from the other day before talking about I think I've earned my spot in this league as a starter. It is a little bit frustrating. Obviously, they're running with Bernier. So of course you look at Reimer and you sit here as an Islander fan and go, oh yeah, we could use a goalie, But I thought that this was a very strange game. I mean, as far as you had a lot of young guys that were all excited. We're gonna, talk about, guys are gonna get traded. I'm gonna have my chance and this and that. Anders Lee, Brock Nelson, and this and that. I thought Brock Nelson had a bit of a rough game as the first line center.
Yes.
The Phil Kessel goal, he was facing Phil and just kind of got caught in a daze and you can't give Phil Kessel space, especially a goal scorer like that. You can't give him space. I thought he had a bit of a rough game in this one. But I liked what I saw out of Anders Lee. I mean, of course, aside from the 2 goals, I like the physical part he brings. I like the fact that he does go to the net a lot. Halmo, we saw a couple of hits on the bigger names like Kessel. Of course, Michael Grabner coming back and looking phenomenal too. Which
you
was
can
a
tell
really
that he was
key.
coming back from the Olympics, where he was given time to score and skate and
Absolutely.
play hockey and play his game.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you talked about this, you were spot on. That you said he's getting minutes. He was playing on a scorer's line. This that. Obviously the Islanders reshuffling the deck a little bit here, trying to get everybody involved and things. And Michael Grabner, I mean, aside from the goals, was having a phenomenal game. He was getting his shots on net. Like the Energizer Bunny, they get that other miscue. And that's really good to see. Because
but he's except for the
forecheck
offense,
was phenomenal.
Except for his numbers, Michael Grabner really hasn't had a bad year.
Yeah.
He's at least been playing well. He's been factoring in he's missed a couple of opportunities on breakaways and he's missed the net a couple of times and maybe hasn't had the best shot, but otherwise he's been playing physical. He's at least been in the game. He doesn't skate around like Bailey where he looks lost.
I mean, he talked about the confidence as being a key thing, and it sounds funny. People say he goes to the Olympics, plays for his country, and all of a sudden he was scoring a hat trick and stuff like that. Like you said, he's got the time, got the space. That he was able to get that confidence up, and that is huge. I mean, this is a guy who Austria wasn't going to win anything, but he had a very good showing. I mean, tied for the tournament lead in goals. Aside from Vanek, who did next to nothing, it was nice to see that. I was happy about that, and I was even saying, hey, maybe he can come back and bring some of that with him. And he really picked up where he left off, in this game. I mean, you could tell from the get-go that he came to play, and had some nice chances. I mean, even the Islanders, he scored his goals later in the period, and they were down 1-0 for much of the first period. But some nice rushes, some nice, generating some nice offense, and making some nice passes too. I liked what I saw out of Grabner, and it is a good thing to see that, that his confidence was shattered, but it seems to be getting back to him, and he played well leading up to the break too.
Yeah.
So definitely a good thing to see. That happened. And the other guy who stood out in my mind, believe it or not, was Andrew McDonald. And I haven't heard his name called, this and that. That was a good thing, because that means he was doing his job. And when push came to shove in the dying, moments there of the third, he made that save. I mean, he saved the team, so they could go into overtime and win it. I mean, he made a wonderful block. And that got a lot of notice, on NHL Network and around the league, of course, because it was in the Toronto Maple Leafs. So, they have a chance to win this game, and here's Andrew McDonald. So that only helps his trade value, maybe. But definitely, I thought he had a good game, which was a big contrast from what he did yesterday.
Yeah.
Him and Brian Straight yesterday, which we'll get to. But definitely some good things out of some key guys, against the Leafs.
Yeah. Good to see Anders Lee score 2 goals. Big third period for him. Lubo scores the game winner in overtime, and Nabokov looked awful. I mean, he only faced 22 shots.
And it's funny because Nabokov did make some nice saves early on, and then it was terrible. But
this guy, he let in almost 25% of the shots that he faced.
Yeah, he has not had a very good first 2 games back.
No, God,
has not had a very good first 2 games back. Getting Nielsen. Nielsen's been playing. Poulin has not. Blah blah blah. Sending him down, calling Nielsen up. Honestly, you read between the lines, and you read Art Staples' article from the other day where you read between the lines about goaltenders that they're really going to look for. That Poulin's coming back. And I'm not convinced that Poulin's coming back, and I think the Islanders need to decide what they have in Anders Nielsen, obviously, so that they can figure out a path forward for goaltending. I wouldn't mind Nabokov back next year as the backup, but and we'll kind of get to that when we talk about the trade deadline, because obviously there are some implications that are happening as far as unrestricted free agents to be goaltenders. But it definitely did not look very good. I mean, didn't get a lot of help against the Devils, but definitely didn't help his cause at the same time.
Oh, and the Islanders really, despite it all, you have to score 7 goals to win this game. That's how bad the goaltending was.
Yeah,
but they only put 19. They put 19 shots up.
19. To me, when I look at Nabokov's effort, the team didn't take enough shots or whatever, but very out of the net a lot, very scrambling, very he does that a lot, but it seemed like yesterday the sliding, the post-to-post movement
just seemed
terrible.
Slow.
Very slow.
Very
slow. And I don't know if that was the ice. There were a couple of funny bounces in these 2 games. But I don't have an answer for that. These guys were scoring 7 seconds into every one of their power plays because he couldn't make a post-to-post move. It was a little alarming. We've seen him, like I said, in the Toronto game, he was a little bit better with that. By the end of the game, by that third period, it didn't look very good, but had made some nice saves. And the post-to-post thing was working for him, and it was not yesterday.
Yeah, the only goal yesterday, Kyle Opozo. Thank God.
Nice tip in from a Vanek shot.
Now, what I'm interested to see with Tavares being out for the season, with Vanek being gone by Wednesday, that's going to affect Kyle Opozo.
Yes, well, yeah. You know what?
But I'm hoping that he can continue.
I think he's going to be able to continue. Not obviously at the level. These guys all feed off of each other. But I think he's going to still put up points. Obviously he's not going to he's not going to be on pace at some point for the 83 points that he was on consistently all season. He was consistently, just over a point per game player.
Right.
You're probably not going to see that from him.
He's got a month left. Let's get him to 30 goals.
But
score 5 more goals.
He definitely will get there.
Which I think he can do.
No, he'll get there.
It's just going to be harder without those 2 guys.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see if they pair him up with some of these younger guys.
Right.
Because, Strome is kind of still trying to get his thing, but he's made a couple of nice plays. Anders Lee looks like he's a guy he's got the size and is showing some skill that you need. Are they going to start giving him more ice time? Brock Nelson, like I said, Brock Nelson I've loved this year, and stepping into a role. I mean, he's filled in on the wings on the first line, but he hasn't really filled in at center too much. Obviously, the Islanders moving him from center to the wing. So I attribute that to why he didn't look great there. Against Toronto and stuff, like I said, a couple of miscues and stuff. But that's just more commentary than anything. I mean, this is a guy who he knows how to play center. He hasn't done it a little bit. He's young. He's going up against some of the top players now, obviously. It's a feeling out process. But Brock Nelson's got that size and got some skill. So don't discount Kyle Oposo just saying Vanek's going to be gone. We hope and Tavares is gone. That Oposo's not going to be great. I think that he's a guy who. He's still going to do what he does best. Obviously, we know that he's the real deal at this point, and we'll see how they mix and match some of the younger guys with him and who they give a chance to. Because, like I said, if Anders Lee continues to show good things or Strome steps up, these guys, it may not be much of a fallback from a guy like Vanek, I should say. Because I mean, none of them can hold the candle right now to Tavares. I mean, Tavares is just a special player. But
yeah, when you look at the box score from this game, it reeks of an Islander game against a team that gives you problems.
Yes.
Where people who don't usually score at all are able to score goals. Now, Adam Henrique had his 17th of the season, Jágr his 19th of the season, 700th of his career, which is insane.
I know.
But look at the other goals here. Ryan Close, 5th of the season.
Yeah.
Marek Zidlicki, his 9th. Mark Fain, his 3rd.
Well,
Eric Jelinek, his 7th. None of these other guys have double-digit, in the goal column.
I mean, Zielicki's a defenseman. 9 goals for him as a defenseman.
It's a good season.
Now,
but my point is what have we always said about the Islanders in their worst shape? This was the game. These were the games. This was the team that guys who don't score are able to come in. How many times do you see a guy who comes into the game with 3 goals on the season score 2?
Well, and for me, looking at this game, this is, and I know we've gotten some flack. And listen, we respect everybody's opinions and stuff like that, but we've gotten some flack on our Twitter from a couple of people, who say I don't like the fact that you're as harsh as you are on Jack Capuano. This Devils game to me had exhibits A, B, and C of why we are harsh on him. The Jágr goal, trying to think of who else had the goal. There were 2 or 3 goals that were scored from a player that came from the half boards, circled his way and made his way into the hash mark area and fired a shot. Now, Jágr did that, and what was it? It was a mess. I mean, Andrew McDonald and Brian Strait were falling all over themselves. This team spends too much time trying to hem guys up against the boards, and then when the puck gets towards the middle of the ice, you see a lot of scrambling, and it's happened all season. And to me, this hurt more because it was weak goals. I mean, Jágr's goal bounced off of McDonald's skate and stuff like that. There were a lot of weak attempts in this game that went in the net or close to the net that Nabokov had problems with. This was exhibit A, B, and C for me of a lot of what ails this team. Yeah, the defense isn't great, but the system isn't great for the makeup of this team because it spends too much time trying to hem guys in deep and against the boards, and then when the puck gets towards the middle of the ice, they have no answer for that.
That's right, because they play that constant zone defense like they're on a penalty kill. This team plays like they're on a penalty kill or like they are preserving a lead the entire game.
But that drove me
the entire game. They all collapse towards the center. Nobody plays. They don't play man on man. They don't put pressure on anybody. They are constantly collapsing to the center and letting other players play with the puck around the perimeter and setting up plays.
Yeah.
It is so easy to come in. There are not many teams in this league where you can really run plays and practice them during the week, where you go, all right, we're going to practice this, but realistically in a game situation, how often are you going to pull it off? How many plays really get run that are bang bang? 1, maybe 2 a game at best.
Yeah.
But this team, with the way that they play, with this type of defense, you can literally quarterback plays on the perimeter and pull them off every game with the way this team plays their defense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what does he do? He watches this happen, and he just stands there and looks.
Yeah. Now,
Like he can't believe he actually got to the building that day. He's a spectator.
I mean, I'm looking at the 3 goals that were scored by defensemen from all slap shots from the point and stuff. One on the power play goals for Jalina and Zidlicki. To me, the power play was terrible. Everything was bad yesterday. The power play, guys like Clutterbuck and the guys that are usually our strong points were terrible on the penalty kill. Nabokov didn't help, of course. But the even strength goals in front of the net, the slot area, there was a lot of scrambling. And that, to me, is everything that's been wrong with this team. I mean, defense and there are teams that have defenses out there that aren't good, that are sitting in playoff spots right now, that are battling for playoff spots right now. And you look at the coaching staffs, and it's like, there's a difference. There is a big difference. And I think that the Islanders will have that chance to improve on that, but I don't think Capuano's coming back next year. But
you can't bring him back.
But I don't have a great feeling in my stomach as far as who his replacement will be. I don't think that it'll be anything.
It'll be
worthwhile.
It'll be Doug Weight.
That's what I'm worried about.
It'll be Doug Weight.
Because to me, that, like I said, everybody's entitled to their opinion.
It will be.
Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but for me, a lot of the system, a lot of the things that were wrong with the system were found in this game. On the Nabokov side, he was bad. This and that. The other thing, they took some bad penalties and played some undisciplined hockey. But there was even strength. There was a lot of problems with the system that were glaring. And in games like this, it really comes out. So.
Travis Amonic, late in the third period, fighting major, instigator, game misconduct. So I don't think he's playing today.
No, I think he got suspended.
Yeah, he's out for today's game.
Yeah. So even more problems now. The team will have to... Oh, God.
And then we get this in the chat room right here. MW says, we're kind to Capuano. He's brutal.
Yeah.
Well, you can't make everybody happy, but whatever. We come here for...
Well, like I said, everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Yes.
I understand some people, think that he's walking on water given the personnel. And in some cases, you go, well, how is this team winning some games like this one and that one? Yeah, absolutely. But, for me, when I look at it, those are the things that drive me nuts. It's not that I just don't like the guy, he looked at me the wrong way, or I don't like this and we make fun or whatever. I look at a coaching staff to provide a system, and I don't think that this system, you could say, well, it doesn't fit the players type of thing. Well, does that mean that the coach is the only problem? I think that there's a problem with a coach and some of the players. I think you'd be hard-pressed to really find a coach that could win with a lot of these guys, as currently constructed. But to me, when there's no adjustment and you get beaten 2-3 times in a game the same way, to another team that's struggling, by the way, I mean, the Devils aren't world beaters. Okay, you had a goalie in the net who hadn't played since January 20th, and you tested him with 19 shots. There were a lot of things that were wrong with this game, but one of the things that drove me nuts was just the system and the no adjustment and the constant trying to hem guys on the board when obviously that wasn't working.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a break. When we get back, we're going to talk about the trade deadline. You're listening to NYIFYI at NYIFYI.com.
NYIFYI. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, it's Sean, and you've been listening to me talk about Cardboard Memories in Comac for years. A lot of you have checked it out, and that's awesome. But for those of you who haven't, what are you waiting for? Cardboard Memories has everything you want. Sports memorabilia, movie memorabilia. He's got old press passes, old pins if you're into collecting that kind of thing. If you need something authenticated, Scott is the guy to go to. I guarantee it. Look, I've added a ton of stuff to my collection, and there's nowhere else I'd rather shop than Cardboard Memories in Comac in the Pepper Tree Commons. They got all the info right now at cardboardmemories.com. You've got to check them out.
Have a question? The forum at NYIFYI.com. Have a comment? The forum at NYIFYI.com. Have a concern? The forum at NYIFYI.com. Need a date for the night? You might want to look somewhere else. But when it comes to hockey, let your voice be heard. Check out the forum at NYIFYI.com. Chat with hockey fans from all over the world, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Membership is free, so log on and be heard. The forum at NYIFYI.com.
Jack of All Trades Productions, Long Island's premier full-service post-production company, specializing in wedding videos, corporate videos, music videos, and film. Jack of All Trades Productions is there for all your post-production needs. Jack of All Trades Productions uses Avid Media Composer to bring finesse and style to your project, with experience in color correction, as well as sound editing and design. For more information, log on to JackieZo.com. That's JackieZo.com. Again, that's JackieZo.com. Jack of All Trades Productions.
11:38. You're listening to NYIFYI live at NYIFYI.com. Sean Croft and Chris Hessel taking questions and comments in the chat room here on
You guys are pretty active.
YouTube and, of course, on Twitter at NYIFYI. Okay. Pablo, welcome back.
Pablo.
Cappy got fined $10,000. Probably just lost his salary for the year.
But a bunch. Good one.
MW, there are lots of problems. Chris, coach is not the only problem, but he clearly is a problem. And then Louis D. Hey now. Hey now, Louis D. No, this team's got lots of problems, but I think when you look at, and this is what he and I were talking about during the break, this team has a ton of problems. The first one that needs to be addressed is Capuano. Because I think that this team maybe they are a playoff team with a different coach. I don't know. Maybe they are, maybe they're not.
Well,
I mean, the defense has been brutal, but I think
you do wonder how a guy like Mike Babcock would use Michael Grabner.
Right.
You know?
I think that we, I feel like we could at least have a few more wins, be within maybe 5 points of the 8th seed.
I mean, the
with a different
goaltending,
coach.
at that point, the goaltending may have still been an issue.
Yes, but I think, and I agree, but if we, if we had gotten a little bit more out of some of our offensive players like a Grabner, if we had instituted a better defensive system, maybe there's more time spent in the other end. Perhaps some of those shots, some of those weak goals don't get to the goaltender because we're able to stand guys up at the blue line or, force them off the puck. There's no question that this team has lots of problems, and the coach, in my opinion, is first and foremost.
Yeah, no, I mean there are a lot of problems, and some will, they'll try and address on Wednesday, and others won't be addressed until after the season. But to me, that is one of the first things that does have to change. I mean, the thing that I always say, it's that to people when I'm talking to them about the team, and it really holds true consistently, is that the team really needs an enema from the top. From the top down, this whole organization really needs an enema.
Yeah.
But, the very top is not going anywhere. Just assume that he's here. Which means that some of the other spots down low aren't going to change. So, Garth Snow's job to build a team, and it sounds like he's taken a lot of the blame for not going out and getting the defenseman that he needed, not going out and getting the goaltender that he needed, which is fine. That's great. But show. That's why I'm looking to this deadline for him to show an eye towards next year, not towards the future, but towards next year. Get something that's tangible that you can start to see pay dividends next year. And I'm not talking about a 2014 or a 2015 draft pick, because then you have to wait until you pick that guy and then wait another 3 years likely for that guy. It's fine. I'm fine with getting the draft picks back, but I'd like to see some tangible prospects, some tangible player that we can use and evaluate and see within the next few months, either this year or the beginning of next year. There he is. Here's the guy we got for player X. Here he goes. And that's what I'm looking for. And I think that you can do that.
I think that's what you can do, but I don't think they're going to. Garth Snow is obsessed with first-round draft picks, continues to be obsessed with first-round draft picks, is trying to get a first-round draft pick for Andrew MacDonald.
And that's,
and I feel that when you have goaltending issues and you were offered Michael Neuwirth, who, yes, is up and down. Reportedly. But let's go with this, because nobody has dispelled that trade offer was on the table.
I'm not even sure if he ever really had a strong offer. I mean, Staple hinted the other day that he's had a lot of teams that have been interested in Andrew MacDonald. He only had the one offer on Vanek. But
apparently was a significant offer.
yeah.
My guess is that they included a second-round pick, but
No,
he wants his first.
My guess is that the team wanted to have him signed. That would be my guess.
The team that we were trading him to
Yes.
wanted a sign and trade sort of deal.
They wanted to make the trade only if Vanek would agree to sign, and Vanek's not agreeing to sign anywhere right now. That's where I think they're going to run into a problem. And actually, this is where Mackenzie had said that the problem, or actually it was Peter LeBrun, said that the Islanders, Garceau is looking to get back what he gave up for Thomas Vanek. So what that says to me is he's looking to get something comparable. So you're looking for a player and a first and second round pick. I don't think you're going to get that. I would be willing to take a second-round pick if I'm getting a player back.
Yes.
Honestly,
you're not going to get all of it. Not a player under contract.
Absolutely. You know,
I think the obsession with we got to get a first-round pick, and with Andrew MacDonald.
Yeah, you were saying.
What I was saying was let's use the AMAC for Neuwirth trade. Nobody's dispelled it. It's what has been thrown out there. Apparently, it was offered. Let's just use it as the benchmark, okay? We're gonna jump off of this, okay? That trade gets offered. Neuwirth, yes, is up and down, but he's young. He can be very good. He fills an immediate need long term because he's under contract, and I think that when this contract is done, he'd still be an RFA. So you have
he's got 1 more year left.
Okay. But he becomes an RFA. He's not a UFA. So you then, let's say, you sign him to another 2-3 years. What you're doing is you're looking at 3.5 to 4.5, maybe 5.5 years of Michael Neuwirth on this team. You see what he can do. You see if you can develop him, and if you can't, you can still deal him as a young goaltender. Somebody would be willing to take him, give up a second, third-round pick, and you move on, or whatever. The point is, this was the opportunity, at least an opportunity, for Garth Snow to address a need on this team, on the roster, right now, but he wants the first-round pick because he is obsessed with the first-round pick because this was never, ever, 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 ever a rebuild. It was never a rebuild. When you won't trade a piece of crap defenseman for a need, for a void that can be filled right now, after you make a trade in which you ship off a perennial 30-goal scorer, a fan favorite, and 2 draft picks to bring in a guy because you were 3 games under. No, I'm sorry, you weren't even under 500. You were at 500, and that was unacceptable. Yet you continue to allow the goaltending issues move on and on and on and on. You're telling me that that's acceptable.
And that was a lot of the talk, that a second-round pick for a guy like Elliott, a second-round pick for this, or a second-round pick for that, and you just devalue the second-round pick much higher than that. Well, I don't necessarily agree with that, but under this hypothetical situation, which I don't think at all was a trade that was at all realistic, I have no doubt in my mind that Washington's going to end up trading one of these guys. They wanted Ryan Miller, they were in on that, so they're definitely going to trade somebody. Are they going to do it for a guy like Andrew MacDonald? I have no idea. They want Andrew MacDonald. A lot of teams want Andrew MacDonald, but nobody wants to give up what Snow wants. And Dan Girardi re-signing with the Rangers helps because it takes another defenseman off the market.
So it does bump the value.
It does bump the value. A team. I don't think the Islanders are going to end up getting their first-round pick for Andrew MacDonald. To me, a team is going to look at him and give up a second-round pick, and I think it's going to be ultimately where they end up with Andrew MacDonald. Vanek, they'll probably get a little bit more. The thing you have to look for is similar to the Blues and Buffalo trade, which was a very interesting trade from several different angles. It's funny because the Blues are getting 2 UFAs to be that they can use right away, and definitely makes them better and brings them into that contender status. The Sabres get kind of a goalie that you got to think there's a really good chance that they're going to flip Halak at the deadline.
Yeah, I mean, this guy might not ever suit up for them.
Yeah, I mean, they showed him practicing this morning, but You know, and
now Molson, they're saying he's on the block again.
Molson's been on the block. You know, there's some talk about is Chris Stewart really going to stay with the Sabres? I mean, he's 26. Ottawa wants him, but you know, they may view him as a piece for their rebuild. You know, and then you have the prospect and the 2 picks. But you know, St. Louis, and everybody looked at it and said, "Well, that's a lot for St. Louis to give up." When you know, Chris Stewart was an enigma for them. I mean, they were trying to figure out how do we fit him in, what do we do? You know, he scores 20, 25 goals, but we have a lot of guys that do that. We could use some more scoring. That's where, you know, they've been interested in a guy like Vanek, you know. But for me, I look at this and I go, I think that that's a very good trade because, A, St. Louis has got to think that they have a phenomenal chance to re-sign Ryan Miller. So they're making this trade with the sense of, oh, we could probably get this guy signed. And as Drager reported the other day, he's not looking for. Everybody thought he was looking for the 7-year deal. He's like you're looking in the 3, 4, 5-year range, you know. And for the St. Louis Blues, I think that they're looking at it and going, we have a better chance to re-sign this guy than other teams would. You know, his wife lives in California, or whatever, or well, his wife's an actress or whatever she is, and you know, he wanted to move out close to be closer to the family and this and that and whatever else. But, you know, Anaheim's got their young studs. I mean, they got Gibson, and he's not going anywhere, and they got Anderson, and he doesn't look like he's going anywhere. They may trade Victor Fast. They're going to let Hiller walk. You know, is there really room for another goaltender? You know, if Anaheim really wanted to trade those guys, sure, but how many?
Yeah, the Kings have Quick locked in.
Quick is locked in. The Sharks have Niemi. I mean, how many? You know, the goaltending is a very hard market.
The only other 2 places I could see him going potentially would be Colorado or Vancouver, assuming that Vancouver either trades or buys out Luongo.
We're going to get to that because there's some interesting things happening with that,
and I think that Colorado could probably get a return for Varlamov.
Probably. If
they wanted to move Varlamov, because now they're looking to move P.A. Parenteau. They may be looking to move Varlamov, bring in a guy like Miller and kind of rebuild a little bit, add some extra pieces. Obviously, they traded Chris Stewart a couple of years ago, so I think that they're still in flux right now.
They could be.
Those are places where Ryan Miller could go because he's you know, a puddle jumper away from being in California.
Correct. You know, so those are the realistic. I mean, yeah, you know, but you know, I think if Miller looks at St. Louis as a realistic place that he could re-sign, and I think St. Louis looked at it and said, we get this guy now go on a run, and we have an easier chance of re-signing him. So the point I was trying to make was, you know, I think out there somewhere is a team that looks at Thomas Vanek and may end up giving up a decent return for him, saying, we get him now, we have a better chance to re-sign him than other teams. We already know he wants to, you know, go out west. Whatever his story is, whatever they're hearing through the ether, you know, we'll give up the assets now. We've been, you know, we have the assets. Okay, here's Islanders. Here's your assets. We'll take Vanek, and we know we have a good chance to re-sign this guy, type of thing. You know, I think you're going to get a team like that that'll step up with an offer. You know, a team that thinks that they have a better chance to re-sign the guy, and it seems to be like a match made in heaven come summer if he's not returning. You know, so there's that. The goaltending carousel did get a little bit more interesting yesterday with news that Roberto Luongo is not starting the outdoor game, and he's made he's voiced his displeasure about that. Eddie Locke is a guy that they signed as an undrafted guy from Europe and has been phenomenal for them, by the way, and you know, was really good in the AHL, really good for them now as Luongo's backup. You know, obviously they had to get that, you know, Schneider out, which has created a problem for Brodeur that he may get traded now. But Luongo yesterday was asked about not starting in the outdoor game, and he says, you know, when I heard that we got an outdoor game, I was really excited because you want to start in that. Now, he hasn't started a game since they've come back from the Olympics. You're talking 2 or 3 games now. Mm-hmm. And he said, I'm upset. You know, I'm upset that I'm not playing it. When I heard we got the outdoor game, I was really looking forward to playing it, and now I'm not, and it's frustrating. He says, and he said to the media, I really don't want to go through this again. And, of course, they brought up the fact that he really pushed to be traded out of Vancouver. And then, of course, there was the shock of, I have to get used to playing here again. And, you know, Vancouver's struggling and seems to be aggressively listening, to quote Bob McKenzie, aggressively listening on all of their players, Kessler and everybody not named Sedin, basically, Edler. So you look at Roberto Luongo and you go, okay, you know, are they going to try and trade this guy? Are they going to move forward? Are they going to go? And then, yes, that would become a realistic possibility for Ryan Miller, or a realistic possibility for Jonas Hiller, or Yaroslav Halak. And, puts Roberto Luongo out there for a team like a St. Louis if they don't get Miller, or a team like the Islanders if they choose to go back to that route. So it's going to be, the carousel of goaltending is going to be interesting. And yes, it does make things more interesting when teams that have guys that are available that you may not know are available, Simeon Varlamov, and you never know. If Colorado makes the playoffs and he falters, they may look and be like, this isn't the guy who can get us to that level. We're going to move on and things like that. And there are going to be very good goaltenders out on the market. Jonas Hiller and Halak is all right. But is Luongo going to be out there? It's a very fair question. The problem that they had was the whole cap recapture problem in trading him last year. And you wonder if that's a problem that Buffalo's going to run into with Christian Ehrhoff, who's on the block apparently. And it's making for an interesting deadline. I don't think a lot of these guys with all these years left on their contract will end up moving, but I think you're going to see some interesting shuffling around. Not so much the way that the Blues and Sabres did it. I mean, that was kind of like expiring goaltender for expiring goaltender. But it wouldn't surprise me if you see some guys with expiring contracts move for other guys, guys that may be more interested. It's going to be interesting to see, for example, and I think that this could be a possibility for the Islanders. It's going to be interesting to see how Washington moves on from Martin Erat. Now, the guy has struggled mightily this year. He's got his 1 goal, his 22 assists or whatever, but obviously wants out and is a winger who has scored 30 goals in the past. And my uninfluenced opinion is that I can see the Islanders not getting the picks that they want for Andrew McDonald. But given that Martin Erat has a similar salary to what they were willing to offer Andrew McDonald, and he signed for another 2 years, I think, moving to a team like the Islanders to replace what they're losing up front. And that's an outside the box thing that I look at and go, I can absolutely see something like this happening.
Yep.
And when I looked at all the rosters and all the teams that were interested, and I only focused on players that were under contract, prospects that were close, all the talk about trading for Malcolm Subban and stuff like that, I go, that is a move that I can see Garth doing.
Mm-hmm.
That is absolutely a move I can see Garth doing, replacing a spot for the rest of this year that you're losing in Vanek.
Yep.
But getting a guy that you think you can turn around in a different situation and blah, blah,
when
blah,
you
blah,
can't,
blah.
But you're going to say, I
low
think
risk,
I
high
can.
reward. We're trading this guy. He's going to be making the same money for the next 2 years that we were offering the guy we're trading him for.
But it's less money than Vanek was making, so we actually come out on top, free up cap room for the big signing that we're never going to make.
I look at this. They've been trying to trade Erat for the last year. Erat asked for a trade in September. They have not found a taker. And I'm looking at this and going, you know what? I can see this happening. They're looking for a lot for him. I mean, they were looking for a lot. They're not getting the return that they want on him. The Islanders are looking for a lot for Andrew McDonald. They're not going to get that return on him. So I look at this and I go, something? It's possible.
It's possible. God, I hope they don't do that.
Me neither.
What a disaster
But that's
that
what
would
I
be.
can see them
Because let
end
me
up doing.
tell you something. They do that, you can kiss any chance of signing any winger in free agency goodbye.
And that's what it is. That's going to be their replacement.
Yep.
Because they're going to look at the market and say, we're not getting Vanek. I don't want Danny Heatley. I don't want Ales Hemsky. I don't want this one. I don't want that one. But we could trade for this guy who's under contract for only 2 more years, and he has had good years in the past recently, and he's putting up a lot of points this year, even though he doesn't have any goals, even though he has 22 assists. But he's more like a defenseman at this point. But hey.
Yeah.
We'll take this guy, we'll turn him around into a 30-goal scorer again, and everybody will fall in love with him.
We're not going to give Brock Nelson or Michael Grabner any ice time, but we're going to go out and get a guy with 1 goal to play a first-line wing.
I'm just saying, for me, I can see something like that
as
as being a possibility.
What a disaster.
Listen, I have no basis on that, but it was just me.
No, but I see it.
Putting 2 and 2 together, thinking about how do the Islanders operate, how does Garth Snow operate, and how does he turn a guy that's not going to get the return that he wants into what he will deem as a good return. And that's how I see this working. They're going to move on from Vanek. They're going to say we probably don't have a good shot of him coming back in the summer. So remember, they've been offering. They were offering him similar money to what he's making now, and Andrew McDonald's 4x16, which is a phenomenal contract. So in theory, they have to offer this money to somebody else. They have to find players. They are willing to offer this money. Okay. Will they get those players to take it? I don't know. I think the 416 they may get somebody to take that. Is that where they're going to fill their goaltending hole with that kind of a contract? I don't know. Are they going to? But I can see them doing something like that, getting a higher priced wing who struggled. That's just my own feeling on it. That's when I look and peel back the onion and look at the teams that really need an Andrew McDonald. And Washington needs a lot of shot blockers, especially with the way their two goaltenders have been this year. I can see it.
Well, my point is, to go back to what I started saying, was it bothers me that using that trade as a springboard, you had the opportunity to go out and address an immediate need with a young player that not only fills the need for now, but potentially could fill the need long term. But instead, you are fixated on these draft picks, these 4-year projects. Why are you fixated on these 4-year draft picks?
Yeah,
it's bothersome to me.
You know, and the other part of the problem
and it makes me uneasy.
At the time when there was all this talk of teams really pushing for Andrew McDonald, the Islanders were kind of still battling for playoff spot. They were winning games, and Snow wasn't looking to move on from players at the time. He was looking to add a defenseman, not trade a defenseman. So in fairness, I agreed at the time with, I'm not trading away a guy, for whatever the return was, especially when you didn't have him on it. You didn't have Wisnowski, and it was a mess. It was like, well, I'm going to trade a defenseman to fix that up for the future. Now, realistically, you weren't winning anything this year, so you probably make that. But then you fall out of the race and you risk that. And it was kind of, to me, I was kind of uneasy with that. But now you look back at it and you go, well, if there's a team that's got an extra asset, like a goaltender, and there are a few, we've talked about Washington, Anaheim, they both want Andrew McDonald. I think you have to demand, if you're not getting your return you want, that first-round pick, I think you have to demand mid-round pick and this guy.
Yeah, but that's my
Otherwise
point.
I turn around
Give
and I
up
trade
on
him.
the first-round pick. Stop it with the first-round pick. We don't need any more first-round picks. When you go
That's
out
what you think.
when you go out and get me another first-round pick, and you draft 3 players this year in this god-awful draft, what that tells me is that you are not trying to win next season, or the year after that, or the year after that, and that's a problem. That is a problem.
Man.
You can't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Say the rebuild is done. Trade Matt Molson. Get Thomas Vanek. Say 500 is unacceptable, and go back into a rebuild.
Torture never stops.
Over the course of 3 months. You can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't do it. But they're going to, which means this was never about a rebuild, ever. This was about doing it on discounts and dimes and pennies.
Yeah, that's what it looks like right now. But I'm going to be very and I'm staying steadfast to my opinion. I've been told that I'll be upset, but I'm staying with my opinion. I'm going to be upset, and I know I'm going to be upset, but I need something tangible out of Wednesday's deadline. I don't need a draft pick. I need something tangible. I need a name. I need a name. I need a prospect's name. I need a player's name. I need a name of some kind, and I'm not talking about a name player. I'm talking about somebody with a face, somebody who I can reach out and tell, oh, it's a real person. It's not a draft pick. It's just something out there. To me, that's what I want from this deadline.
What I would do,
I need something tangible that shows me they're looking for the rest of the season to give a guy a spot, to give a guy next year, going into next year, a spot. Matthew Dumba, Malcolm Subban, Martin Erad, at this point, if they go out and get a name that shows, hey, we're not just looking for a young kid or a draft pick that's going to be ready in 4 years. We're looking for a tangible player that you can look at on the screen at the Coliseum, and here they are. Somebody we're looking to give a spot to next year. Somebody we're looking to, great, fine. Something new to look at.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for.
Right now, if I'm the general manager of this team, honest to God, at this point, blow up the team, but blow up the team to build a team for next season.
Right.
That does not mean blow up the team for draft picks and rebuild.
And you can do that.
You can trade Amac, Vanek, maybe Bailey.
Probably
Bailey
for like a mid-round pick.
For a mid-round pick, all right, but whatever. Nielsen, right now, aside from, I know that there's a fixation on trading Amac and Vanek because they're both expiring contracts and nobody can ever leave. We can't let anybody just walk, God forbid. So that's fine, and they have some demand on them. Good. But you are log-jammed at center. Trade Franz Nielsen. Trade Franz Nielsen right now. This is the highest his value is ever going to be. I beg you to trade Franz Nielsen right now and bring back a guy under contract for a couple of years who will help us on this team. Whether it's a winger, whether it's a D-man, whether it is a goaltender, trade Franz Nielsen now and bring
I'm not
somebody
just trading
in
him
to help.
to get rid of him. I would trade him for a guy under contract.
Yes,
a defenseman type
and
of thing.
fill
Absolutely.
a void. And then go out, trade your Vanek, bring in your roster player, get your stupid first-round pick back, because you got to get that damn thing, and then go out and trade AMAC and either bring somebody in who's a roster player or go get another pick, but take that pick and whatever pick you get for Vanek and parlay it into another player under contract that a team is trying to dump because they don't want to pay him anymore, and he needs a change of scenery, and he can help us.
The Islanders
go out and get that guy now and be ready to go for next season. Go out and get your goaltender in free agency. Go out and get your winger in free agency, whether it is Vanek or whoever. You know, I know you don't want Danny Heatley, but I'll take him over Martin Erat. Just go out and, just address it. Go out and set yourself up where you go, I can sign a defenseman, I can sign a goaltender, and maybe we bring a kid up from Bridgeport to play on the wing. Or, you know what, we're going to bring Scott Mayfield up, we're going to give him a shot next season, but it's okay because we brought in Edler, whoever you brought in, or Ehrhoff, whoever it is that you got for trading Nielsen, or whoever you got for parlaying picks, and say, you know what, this is how teams do this successfully. When you are at the end of a rebuild, you bring in players, veteran guys, maybe they're under bad contracts, but they're here, and they give you the opportunity to not go out and get that other free agent, and it gives you the leeway to bring up a kid and give him a chance.
Correct.
And when it flops, you send him back down, but you have that cushion. Right. You have that veteran guy under contract who you know is going to be there. That's what this team needs to do right now.
They need to think outside the box. And listen, a lot of the stuff we're describing here is not rocket science. You just got to think outside the box. I mean, Buffalo has kind of thought outside the box a little bit with their trades. They went and traded a UFA for UFA. They went and did it again with the goaltenders. They, maybe they think about, hey, maybe we can keep Halak. Oh, what do we want to do with Chris Stewart and this and that? They thought outside the box. You got teams that have players that they know are replaceable. St. Louis looked and said, yeah, we got a young guy in Chris Stewart, but we'll get 2 UFAs. Do we really want to give up a deal for that? Well, he's a little bit of a similar player to what we already have, this and that, the other thing. Maybe St. Louis thinks that they're going to be able to add that scorer type of thing. They thought outside the box. Buffalo's been thinking outside the box. You got to think outside the box a little bit with some of these moves. And, yeah, they may not be the most ideal things, but when you look at it in the interest of building a team, you can go, well, I can do that and get this player and try and move this and that and the other thing. And we always hear that every year when the Islanders acquire these picks. Oh, they may try and package them to get something. Well, and it never happens. So the jury's still out. We'll see how Snow does at this deadline. The one thing I won't do is compare the package that Molson gets to the package that Vanek gets.
No.
Their teams. But, I'm staying with I need one tangible something.
And don't be concerned with holding these guys.
Don't
be concerned with holding these guys until 2:55 Wednesday afternoon.
That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, it is what's going to happen.
And if you have a funny feeling they're going to screw themselves out of it.
Probably. But it's unfathomable right now that either one of them would be playing today. It makes zero sense. Luongo's not playing, he's on the block. Ehrhoff's not playing, he's on the block. You can't play these guys. They're
going to play
do
them.
It.
They said they're going to play them. They spoke to Capuano. They spoke to Snow. They're playing these guys.
You better hope they don't get hurt, because then you are truly screwed.
Well, we'll see what
happens.
And
then we're going to look back on whatever deal that was offered for them, and we're really going to be upset about it.
Well, remember,
you can't play these guys.
A lot of the problems they're running into with Vanek is he's not signed. Teams want to. Nashville was ready to give up a ton to get this guy, but only if he was going to sign. He's not going to sign in Nashville, and they're not going to give him the money anyway.
Right.
So, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. It's going to be a very wild few days.
We're going to take one more break. When we get back, it's Sin Bin time. You're listening to NYIFYI live on NYIFYI.com.
Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Just find NYIFYI in the iTunes store and hit subscribe.
Hey guys, it's Sean, and you've been listening to me talk about cardboard memories in Comac for years. A lot of you have checked it out, and that's awesome. But for those of you who haven't, what are you waiting for? Cardboard Memories has everything you want. Sports memorabilia, movie memorabilia. He's got old press passes, old pins if you're into collecting that kind of thing. If you need something authenticated, Scott is the guy to go to. I guarantee it. Look, I've added a ton of stuff to my collection, and there's nowhere else I'd rather shop than Cardboard Memories in Comac, in the Pepper Tree Commons. They got all the info right now at cardboardmemories.com. You've got to check them out.
Have a question? The forum at NYIFYI.com. Have a comment? The forum at NYIFYI.com. Have a concern? The forum at nyifyi.com. Need a date for the night? You might want to look somewhere else. But when it comes to hockey, let your voice be heard. Check out the forum at nyifyi.com. Chat with hockey fans from all over the world, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Membership is free, so log on and be heard. The forum at nyifyi.com.
Jack of All Trades Productions, Long Island's premier full-service post-production company, specializing in wedding videos, corporate videos, music videos, and film. Jack of All Trades Productions is there for all your post-production needs. Jack of All Trades Productions uses Avid Media Composer to bring finesse and style to your project, with experience in color correction, as well as sound editing and design. For more information, log on to jackizo.com. That's JACKIZO.com. Again, that's JACKIZO.com. Jack of All Trades Productions.
The NYI FYI Sin Bin, presented by Cardboard Memories in Comac. Cardboard Memories is located in the Pepper Tree Commons on the corner of Jericho Turnpike and Comac Road. More info at cardboardmemories.com. Here's Sean and Chris.
All right, Sin Bin this week presented by Cardboard Memories in Comac. My pick, might
Who
be
even cares anymore?
You know, there's that. And I don't know that I've ever put this guy in. Maybe only once or twice. My pick, despite it all, is Evgeny Nabokov.
That's a good bet. That's kind of what I'm thinking. You know, it's tough. Like I said for yesterday, I don't know. It's tough. I mean, like I said, a lot of the movement and stuff was pretty bad. You know, a lot of the defensemen, you know, Brian Strait wasn't great, the system wasn't great, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I guess by default, I mean, some weak goals. Sure, why not?
Yeah. All right, so
Just for the sake of,
we're both going with Nabokov here.
why not?
There is a part of me, I don't like to wish my life away. I don't like to wish for, oh, I can't wait to do this next month. I can't wait to do this, you know, in 6 months, whatever. But I really can't wait to be sitting in this spot a week from now, because I
neither.
just want this to be over.
Me too.
And one way or the other, there's a bit of me that is excited for the
Me
amount
too.
of entertainment that is going to be that show, because
Me
we're
too.
either going to be dancing and blowing off the walls, or we're going to be crying.
Well,
And I can't. Part of me wants that anxiety over with.
it's funny because I was thinking the same thing, and I'm also thinking about how they're going to address this in the offseason. What are they going to do with this? I see they have all these defensive prospects. They're not trading anyone. Are we even going to get any better on defense? You know, part of me wants to see next week, and the other part of me wants to kind of look forward into the summer and just. I'm very curious about how they're going to go about things, because they've made these statements, like you said. The rebuild. This isn't a rebuild. The rebuild's over. We're past that. 500 isn't acceptable. This season's not acceptable. This is not acceptable. You're offering these contracts to these guys, but the problem is, in the past, we've always seen this. They've offered the contract to Ehrhoff, and he doesn't take it. And, okay, well, we're going to go trade for Brian Ralston then. What?
Yeah.
Where's the middle ground? What the heck happened? We're going to try for this defense and this defense and this defenseman. They all went elsewhere. Okay, well, we'll bring in Steve Stais.
But offer them real contracts.
Wait,
Don't
what?
offer them contracts that you know that they're going to reject just to
So-
say that you tried.
Well, that's the part of the problem. But
They don't want to sign any of these players, but they want to say they tried.
So, yeah. So, you know, by theory, you know, you have the 16x4 for McDonald and the 50, whatever it is, 50, 51, 52 by 7 for Vanek, something around there, assume. And you have to assume, because it hasn't been reported otherwise, that they were at least level-loaded contracts. Well, you know, you've made a statement. Like I said, you couple those two contract offers with the fact that you've made these statements of this is not acceptable, that's not acceptable, this is not acceptable, blah, 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 blah. You got to put your money where your mouth is. You got to go out and be creative and make moves for guys with contracts and sign guys to comparable contracts to the ones who aren't being accepted by you. And, you know, if this team goes from Thomas Vanek to, you know, Jonathan Chichu, well, then we have a problem.
Yeah. MW says the sin bin, Vanek, he's playing at 50% speed.
He is. That's a good one, actually, because he hasn't looked great.
Bud Light 72 says sin bin, Olympics.
The Olympics is another good one.
He also said, when do Islander fans dance and jump for joy? And Pablo,
26 years ago.
yeah, Pablo in Jersey says crying more likely.
You know what? The returns are going to be what the returns are.
They're going to be draft picks. That's what it's going to be, because this team has the inability to address players that play on an NHL
and
roster.
I'm not going to be thrilled with it. I mean,
Nope.
you know, people put so much into draft picks. Whatever draft pick you're getting is going to be the next Brock Nelson, so he's 3 years away.
Yep.
Our own draft pick I'm not concerned with. Our own draft pick is going to be nice and high.
Yeah.
We're going to get whoever
we stink enough to get.
We're going to get whoever we get with that high draft pick. That's fine. I'm fine with that. That guy's going to be close. That's fantastic. Great. I'm talking about, you know, whatever first round pick you're getting for these guys is going to be a late first round pick. And knowing the Islanders, when everybody else is trading for 2015 picks, we're going to be trading for the 2014 picks in a weak draft.
Yeah.
Joy.
H Skates 121. Wait can't even coach the power play, so I guess that's his choice for Sinbin. Tim Finn, Sinbin, Garth Snow. Talk to us next week about that.
Well, yes, I was reserving that for next week.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's where he's going to be. All right, that's going to do it for us this week. We're going to be here next week.
Woohoo! How exciting.
3
days away.
Yeah. Oh boy. For Chris Hessel, I'm Sean Croft. We're all Islanders, and we'll see you guys next therapy.